Welcome back to the Ben and Rex YouTube channel. Well guys, we got a fun one in store today. You know, it's the holiday season here. It's another brisk Michigan morning. It's actually Thanksgiving, believe it or not, for us. So it's time for family, you know? So what happens when family comes around and you got a hoist? Well, you get roped into projects. So here we are. We got a 2013 Dodge Avenger. And honestly, it's a really cool looking color. It's an RT, of course, you know, race car. So what we got to do to this guy today, just took it into a quickie lube place and they said that the ball joints are bad. So we're gonna go ahead and verify that. And if we need to, we're gonna replace them. Check out the brakes, all that good stuff. Give her a once over. It's a good cousin of mine. She's a 26-year-old girl, can't be driving around with some beat up POS and the tire's about to fall off. So least we can do is straighten it up. So let's get this thing in the air, get her checked out, see what we got to change. Alright guys, one of the first things I like to do is just a quick shake, you know, of the tires, just to see. I mean, if it's something really bad, it's going to be obvious. So I guess let's give her a shot. You know, do the old side to side, up, down, check your wheel bearing, ball joint. Now there's more proper ways to check ball joints, but if it's bad enough, it'll show itself. So let's take a look. No way. Look at that, guys. I don't know if you can see that or not. Holy crap. We got, oh man. Let's go to the other side real fast. Let's check this side, but that is bad. We'll get it up in the rack a little, or get it a little higher in the air anyways. But there's a lot of play. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad. So I'm glad that I'm glad somebody told her anyways. Let's get this thing in the air real fast the rest of the way and check and see what's loose. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but man, she's looser than my last girlfriend. Look at that thing. Holy crap. She is toast. Well, you know what that means. It's time to rip the tires off. But we're going to give this thing a quick walk through underneath, make sure everything else looks good, and we'll get to ripping them tires off. Honestly, guys, this is actually a surprisingly clean car for Michigan. Usually they're roached out by now. They ain't got no rockers left. But dang, this thing is a good buy. I mean, if you're a Dodge guy, but you know, everything looks pretty decent. We're gonna go ahead and shake the rest of this thing down, but I mean, even the bushings are pretty good shape. Just gonna, like I said, check it over, make sure it's good. So if we're here, we can fix it, you know. Everything else looks pretty straight. We'll go ahead and get all them tires off right now. All right, guys, before we jump into this one, I want to give you a couple tools that we may be using here to get this thing apart. So, basic stuff, impact, you don't have to. I mean, you could use all these, you know, by all means, you could do this by hand, but it takes a little longer. Impact, you got an axle nut socket. Now, there is a metric version of this, obviously, but I just used 1 1/4. We got a 18, that was for our lower ball joint nut. We got our C-clamp for our ball joint press. We did use a grinder. Basically, you'll use that to cut off the ball joint stud. And then, by all means, an air chisel is nice to help kind of rattle that back in. Now, we did do this on the vehicle without pulling the strut loose. The benefit of that, this is the biggest thing, the benefit of that is they're not screwing with the alignment. Saves you a ton of time and a ton of cash. Let's get to it. All right, guys, basic start with the taking the tire off. You know how that part works. All right, guys, get your 1 1/4 out. I'm sure there's a metric equivalent. It's probably like a 33 or something, but it's what we got that fits. Get that unit out of the way. And we got lucky, it's already free. And we'll go ahead and take this ball joint nut loose. All right, we got an 18mm on the bottom. Get that dude off there. I'm going to pop this down. That'll allow us to pull our knuckle assembly out. So we're going to give that a couple swats, take the bar and pry her down. All right, so she's moving. Gotta find something to get onto. There we go. Pull him out of the way. Biggest thing is we want as much room as possible to get to that ball joint. So what I like to do is just pull it right out of the way. We're not jeopardizing anything. Make sure we put our little shim washer back on. Probably take a ratchet strap and just kind of tie it back. That way we can get right to that unit. All right, so there's a snap ring right here, guys, and we are, you know, lucky contestant number one that, you know, you can't see the split of the snap ring. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my air chisel, or you probably do a hammer and chisel, however, and just kind of rattle this. Hopefully it's not seized too bad in there, and it'll spin so we can get to the opening of it. Worst case too, guys, you could always cut this. I mean, if you took a hot knife and just hit it with a torch or a grinder or something and just cut that snap ring and then it's two pieces, it'll fall right apart. We're gonna go ahead and try spinning that first to see if we can get to it. Well, that works too, guys. Look at that, split right in half. That's what we were going for. Let's get the rest of this thing out and then we can get our press in here and knock this dude loose. All right, guys, I always like to take the boot off. It just gets it out of the way. Usually they'll just knock right off here. There we go. That way we don't have to worry about that. And wow, that grease is, well, it's like mud. All right, guys, we just got our basic Harbor Freight ball joint press. That's all we need for this job. We may have to use the air chisel to kind of help take it back up in there, but this will get us going anyways. So we're going to use our main C-clamp A-frame and our pressing piece, probably a die and, you know, something like that. We'll piece it together over on the car and show you how to get that thing out of there. All right, guys, so what we're going to do first before we put the clamp on there, because that C-clamp doesn't really fit the best in here, we're going to go ahead and cut this ball joint off. Just take the grinder, nip that out of the way. At least then we're just dealing with this, and when we go to compress it down, the stud is not interfering with the tool. Again, guys, do this with discretion. I mean, this is one of those things that, you know, you could get hurt, but I'm not saying it's the right way either. This is just how I do it. Just like that. All right, guys, now that we got that out of the way, like I said earlier, we're gonna go ahead and use our just our adapters, and this doesn't fit 100% like we discussed earlier. And by all means, ball joint presses are a pain in the butt to work with. These things, man, if they were all magnetic, that would be probably the coolest thing. And there probably is a brand that does that, but not what we have. So we work with what we got. So let's see if we can get this thing to pop loose. That actually came out pretty well. I think what we'll do now is we'll just finish that up with the air chisel, and that should have her knocked right out of there. Well, that's the removal part anyways. Now we get the fun part of putting her back in. Let's get to it. All right, guys, so we went ahead, we just got some Moog ball joints for this thing. Part number, you can see that, this thing's always a pain in the ass of part numbers. K500-235. Greasable, all that stuff. Got us a new snap ring. Something I wanted to show you, a lot of people don't realize this though. If you read the boot, these things are directional. A lot of times you'll see they have a small hole drilled in them. It usually indicates inboard. It also says mount inboard. The biggest thing is there's more articulation in and out. So you want to put that in the right spot. So what I like to do is just take a paint marker and just put a blob there, because obviously when you're trying to manhandle this thing in there, at least that way you can see where your reference point is. So go ahead and we're gonna spray this down some WD-40, because by all means, the ball joint press ain't gonna work the whole way. We're gonna have to do this backyard. You know what I'm saying? But, so yeah, let's put this in there. Give that a nice douching. Like I said, make sure you watch your mark, because you want that back here. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a couple tappy, see if we can get her to drive in. All right, I found the old 4-wheel drive axle nut socket. Seems to fit pretty decent, and we're not hitting the stud. I like to go ahead and at least seat this thing and center it up so it ain't falling out. All right, guys, now that we got it seated, we're gonna go ahead and just kind of go back and forth with the air chisel. Just kind of work it back and forth, and she'll be in just a second. All right, guys, now that you got it all the way in, get your big snap ring. They kind of just push on there, you know. Okay, guys, so we got our snap ring popped in. We spun our grease fitting in. A little tip I would suggest is you want to angle this thing at a position where you can get to it. So it's easier and more wide open towards the tie rod end. And also, if you turn your wheel, it's going to open that spot up. If you point that bad boy straight, you're never going to get to that axle in the way. So at least that way, you can get to it. Other than that, what the hell's the point of having it, right? So let's go ahead and reassemble. One other thing I didn't show you is, for a little bit more flexibility, I pulled out these 13 millimeters for the ABS and then our brake hose. It just gave us a little more room. Not completely necessary, just easier for me. So, and to show you guys, of course. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy back together, and we're about done. I mean, that wasn't that bad, really. All right, let's get this strap out of the way. Now here's the one thing you don't want to forget, because by all means, you're gonna hate to have to tear this back apart because you forgot something, right? So, remember this dude in the beginning? He goes back on and sits in here. Go ahead, give her a twist, line her back up. Okay, our axle's started, kind of. All right, axle started. I like to go ahead and spin that nut on there just so it don't pull back out. Get our friendly pry bar back out. And don't get your finger caught in there, guys. Probably wouldn't be the best. Line that dude up. All right. Let's push her around a little bit. There we go. Check that out. Popped right back in. So the new one, obviously being aftermarket, has a cotter pin and all that stuff. Put that dude on there. Now don't send it home with your impact, guys. Just get her bumped up, get yourself a ratchet. At least that way, you can kind of feel what you're doing. And then line up your cotter pin hole. You never want to back off either. That's the biggest thing. You always want to make sure you continue to tighten, because if you back off, being that's a taper, well, it'll come loose. And this will probably start a fight here, guys, but I just put him in and bend him over. I've seen guys cut them and do all kinds of other BS. It doesn't matter, as long as it's through the hole. All right, go ahead and tighten your axle nut down. And then obviously you're gonna check that for proper torque with a torque wrench. So at least we're getting it seated right now. We're gonna go ahead and put our brake lines back up there. You say we pulled our ABS cord loose. These are both 13, so easy enough. This dude just hooks there. Send her home. And that's it. Don't forget to grease it either, by the way. On that note, guys, happy Thanksgiving. We're rolling out. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate you for tuning in.